Y'all ready for this?
Meet Happy Gilmore. He was a hockey player.
Don't you ever touch my puck!
Now he's going from the rinks to the links.
Where you going with those clubs, Punk? I'm your caddy.
He's got the swing.
He shoots, he scores!
He's got the drive.
This guy sucks.
He's got the ball.
All right, let's go.
Adam Sandler is Happy Gilmore. Rated PG-13. Starts Friday at theaters everywhere.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Not Content Podcast. My name is Jerome and on tonight's episode, we have the right match as we begin our look at Adam Sandler. No, we did not pick a Sandman match. We picked a match involving the Nasty Boys as they took on Cactus Jack and Kevin Sullivan, a match from Slamboree 1994. My co-host, of course, is Brian. Make sure to leave a 4 or 5 star review on Apple and Spotify to get those algorithms going. Please like and subscribe to us on YouTube, including clicking the bell icon to get notifications. Brian, we are going to be talking about Adam Sandler, who is a very, very notable performer, a mixed bag, I guess we could say, in terms of his movies. But there's a wide swath of quality, and we're going to be honing in on 4 of his more notable projects that he has chosen to do over the course of the last 30 years or so. With Happy Gilmore 2 coming out at the end of the month, we thought it only fitting to discuss this first Happy Gilmore to start Adam Sandler month. So, Brian, why don't you talk a little bit about Adam Sandler and why you chose the theme for this month?
I mean, look, when Happy Gilmore 2 got announced, I thought it was like a dream because I just feel like a lot of online push has been pushing for that sequel for so long, and I think the movie has gained a lot of traction over the last 10 to 15 years on streaming, and it feels like it's gained a new audience, you know what I'm saying? Because as of this recording, we watched it on Peacock, and I think it's switching to Netflix in the transition because of the tie-in or whatever. But it's listed as number 3 as of like today, right when we're recording this, the number 3 movie on Peacock, which shows you that this still has legs to it. And I don't think anyone thought this would have legs when it first came out. I saw this like on VHS. I didn't even see it in theaters. And like, I don't know, man. It's just grown on me. And I think it's because of the Carl Weathers performance. I think there's a little bit of that. I think the Shooter McGavin character has grown a lot in like memes and GIF form. And like, it's used really well in the right kind of circumstance for a meme, like shooting kind of thing. And it's like that in, I forget his name, the actor, but he's embraced that kind of persona online too, and he's been waiting for a comeback for this kind of role.
as Shooter McGavin.
Christopher McDonald, also one of Sam's ex-friends, pitchers from the Boston Red Sox, and also one of the ex-captains on the Enterprise C, I believe, if I'm not
also
mistaken.
A villain in the movie Dirty Work as well.
Also the coach in Celtic Pride. He's very much all over the 90s, folks, but he's just a recognizable face, and he didn't want to be kind of typecasted into this role, so Dennis Duggan had to convince him to do it, and I'm glad he did all these years later. I'm glad he's accepted the role. They had to give him like creative control over like what he wanted to do in terms of like the mannerisms of the character and whatnot, and they were like totally fine with it. And so he kind of took the character and invented the whole shooting thing. Like Dennis Duggan didn't even come up with that, which kind of shows you that like he was really honed in on this character. And of course, like the Subway stuff is like funny now because of like how all these athletes have become Subway athletes, and Subway wasn't like a big thing in terms of sponsorships until like later on, I would say, if that makes sense. Like, it's so crazy how this movie was kind of ahead of its time in some of this stuff. And the way that, like, I don't know if you noticed this, Jerome, but, like, in terms of putting, it's really changed in the last 30 years where, like, there's special putters now where you don't put your hands together with the club. You, like, specifically put it, like, right if you're right-handed, put it in the middle, left hand on top, and do it, like, almost Happy Gilmore style with, the, like, almost hockey style. So it's really, like, influenced a lot of things in terms of like movies and comedies and like obviously Adam Sandler's career, but like actually the game of golf as well, because this is like a cult classic in terms of like golf fans, which makes sense, and hockey fans as well, which kind of relates to the right match.
Adam Sandler, of course, is playing a hockey player who becomes a golfer in this movie, and there's a couple of things that I want to point out that I think are really interesting to note and something that I wish we could get back to. This movie had a $12 million budget. It made $41 million. it probably cleaned up home video, including VHS and DVD sales. So there's that, and there is also the fact that this movie is 92 glorious minutes, and I cannot help but think that life was better when we could have comedies come out every, once a month, once every other month, 90 minutes, $12 million. You go in, you have a few laughs, and that's it. I don't know why we got away from that, and I look at this movie and I think about the fact that Happy Gilmore 2 is going to be coming to streaming. I am sure it's going to do very well in terms of viewership, but I can't help but think how much we are losing by the fact that this movie is not even good enough, apparently, to be in theaters.
I know, and I was hoping that they would like release it in like a special like because like Netflix owns a certain amount of locations throughout the country. One of them is the American Cinematheque, which is in Hollywood, which I've been before. And I was hoping they were going to do like a special like Netflix kind of screening for the movie, and they're not even doing that. It's just July 25th. That's when it's dropped. Everyone's going to cuddle around. I'm actually having friends over for it. We're all looking forward to it, man. So it's kind of this thing where it's like this. I don't know if it's like a generational thing as well, where it's like generation of like golf fans and Adam Sandler fans, and especially the newer Adam Sandler fans that are just like the Netflix fans generation. So it's going to be really interesting. I think this is going to be a big streaming success. I just wish that it was released in theaters, but again, it's just this Netflix contract thing and the way that Netflix does their shit. It's almost as if they're just kind of giving them the money to do it. We're going to take care of the post stuff, and it's just we're not getting the kind of I don't know. I mean, it's getting a lot of buzz, but I feel like it can get even bigger buzz if it had a good trailer in theater, like running around right now. But it's not. It doesn't have that. But I still feel like it's well known enough that the sequel's coming out. So I'm really excited for it. The thing is, just like I'm worried it's an hour and from what I'm reading, it's an hour and 50 minutes, which is oh boy. We'll see on that
Boo!
if that's
20 minutes too
if
long.
that's even correct. If that's even correct,
That's
but
20
I don't
minutes
know.
too
I
long,
mean,
man.
you never
Like this
know.
movie, I don't know, 90 minutes. I mean, that's what comedy should be. 90 minutes, maybe 100 minutes, but like that's the right length, and especially for Adam Sandler at this stage. And there's like so many cameos now, and I'm sure that contributes to the runtime. I mean, you do have some cameos in this movie. Let's be clear about that. Like you have Uncle Vern Lundquist, one of the best announcers of all time. It was great to see Uncle Vern. I don't know what your position is on Uncle Vern.
I mean, I just know his voice from like all the golf highlights and the few times that I've watched like golf live during like a Tiger Woods random appearance kind of thing, and I just randomly watch
I
Tiger
mean, he did his
Woods'
most
best
notable is
moments.
like he has some really like high profile like SEC calls for football, and one really notable basketball call. He is the one who called the Christian Leitner the turnaround shot that he hit
Oh
against
yeah, that's
Kentucky.
right. That's
That
right.
is where that is Uncle Vern
Wow.
calling it.
Okay,
So
so I'm glad he got a good chat, like a good portion of this movie, like calling the shot or calling
and
the
he is
golf
back
stuff.
for
So
the
that was good.
sequel too. He is 80 something years old, and he's retired, but he came back for this movie.
That's amazing because he looks old in this. So it's just wow.
He looks
But yeah,
spry compared to what he looks like in the sequel.
yeah, I know. Yeah, there's a lot of fun cameos in this. I mean, if you want to talk about the Bar Barker thing, it's like, I mean, it
An all
actually did
timer,
good
like
for
maybe one of the
both.
best cameos
Yeah,
of all.
one of the best on-screen fights of all time because I felt like it's very
I mean,
realistic in terms of
The thing about Bob Barker is he's clearly game. Like, look, if the check clears, like he's game for anything, and I appreciate that. I mean, think back to when he was like 90 something years old and he guest hosted Raw. Like he was one of the best WWE Raw guest hosts of all time, and I'm sure this is an era when you weren't watching, but I was there. I was actually in attendance when he guest hosted, and he was easily one of the best. Like he had a back and forth with Jericho that was really good. Like he was so good in that, and he's really good here. Like he goes back and forth with Adam Sandler. I mean, the comedic timing is there. Like you could tell that he did a lot of his own stunts. I mean, the fight, yeah, I can't help but think of the chicken fight that Peter and Chicken have in Family Guy. Like that's what this reminded me of. And I guess Bob Barker, one of the reasons that he agreed to do the movie is because he went over in the fight, brother.
yeah, they had to rewrite the movie, brother, because he was supposed to lose the fight. But he
I
even did an
I
Undertaker
think it's
spot.
actually I think it's actually better than
Yeah,
in my
because
opinion.
it bruises his ego. That's the whole point of it. I think that's much more brilliant. And the fact that he does the Undertaker spot, and the fact that like there's a lot of things about this fight that's kind of legendary. It's the fact that like it brought Price is Right like into the younger generational,
Yep, it
you know
did.
what I mean? Like it, and I know that because after I watched this movie, I started watching Price is Right more. When I'm like on the sick days or like spring break, you know what I mean? Like the 10 a.m. time slot on CB has always
Absolutely.
been Price is Right,
I mean, it's
and
funny you
I
say
think it
that
just
because that
really
is that
been
is as
popular.
true. That's true here too. Like it airs at 10 a.m. It must air at 10 a.m. everywhere across the country, maybe.
That's my theory, yeah. And I mean, you talk about how he was so good hosting. I think it's because he was the host for so many years and he's gone through so many different personalities in different like spectrum. You know what I mean? Like he's done deal with so many people on the show for so many years. He knows how to deal with all these different aspects of
There is
personalities.
a skill set to being a game show host that I think has been lost because everybody wants to do the next thing or they want to be a comedian or they want to do something else. I mean, I look at a Bob Barker, I look at an Alex Trebek, and I think of them like as game show hosts and how good they were at it for so long. I mean, that's the thing. These guys are institutions. I mean, Pat Sajak, I'm kind of more mixed on, but like Bob Barker is genuinely a an excellent game show host. Like that, what he
Yeah.
did takes a
Since
lot of skill.
1970 something, man. And I've been watching the old runs of like the 80s episodes of Price is Right on Amazon, and it's like, wow, a car was like $8,000 back then. No wonder my answer was completely
It's an
wrong.
incredible
But
run.
it But the thing is, like, okay, so there's this game on there where there's a putting game, right? And every time the putting game happens, he does a show for the audience where he puts himself to make it seem like it's, that it's capable of being done, right? And every time, at least 90% of the time, maybe 95% of the time, he nails that putt. And so when you watch this movie, it's like, oh, no wonder like he's in a golf tournament because he's so well known for golfing.
Yep.
And I don't realize this as a kid, but then if you watch it later on, it's like, oh, that's why he's in Happy Gilmore because he's in actually a good. I don't know if he's a good golfer all around, but he's a really good like putter. He's really good at putting, and like that's legit. And he's landed like a 30, not a 30 footer, but like what is it, like 15 to 20 feet? That putt is every time he
I
does
mean,
that game
that's
show.
you would not think that doing something like that would be that hard, but it really is that hard.
Yeah, and the contestants always are like 50-50 on it, but Bob Barker's like 95% of the time nailing that putt. And it's always got a big pop for me, and it pops the crowd as well. So I thought that was a great connection for the movie.
I mean, the weird thing is like I think Adam Sandler is generally fine. I would say that I prefer his character and performance in Billy Madison and Waterboy over this. I think he's a little too angry in this movie. I think what makes this movie to me is the Bob Barker stuff. You know, having Vern Lundquist there, Joe Flaherty calling him a jackass is funny. I think Julie Bowen is pretty good too. Like it's kind of a hapless, thankless role, but I think Julie Bowen does a really good job with it. And I don't know, like it's weird to me. Like Adam Sandler is clearly a very broy type of comedian, but I mean, there's some borderline stuff, but it doesn't ever feel like it crosses a line, if that makes sense. I mean, like you could argue like the Julie Bone stuff is a little weird, especially when it goes into the happy place and like her literal purpose is carrying the beers around. But I don't know, it doesn't feel like it almost never veers into like disrespect of women, which is what I would expect from a movie with given Adam Sandler's reputation and more importantly who his friends are.
Yeah, I think the thing is like when Adam Sandler has a good script that has a heart to it, it overcomes that issue. And I think this is one of those cases where like in this case he's doing it for his grandma. And I think that's what really like like I think
Right?
that's
There's
what
a
really
heart
like
to
is
it.
like
Yeah.
there's a heart to it, and you're really rooting for this guy because deep down he's got all these anger issues. He really wants to be a hockey player, but he's really doing it for his grandma. And I think that's what a lot of people are attached to in terms of this character because it's like so selfless to do and to go through all this shit and like and all the he's basically going through anger management therapy at the same time. If you want to kind of think about it that way, when he's ever with Chubbs and like that kind of thing, it's like go to your happy place, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of like subtext to that as well. So I mean, I know that's like 96 and they're not really talking about mental health, but obviously this dude has a major anger issue, and I hope they kind of like reinforce that in the sequel and see how he's been dealing with that for the last 30 years because maybe
Yeah.
he's like a calmer guy now, right? And that does happen to people. But if he hasn't like controlled it, maybe
For
that's
sure.
going to be like a consequence. And with Julie Bowen, I think like at least she's not like this thing where like she's like the prize of it all. She's like there to support. Like once she finds out about the grandma thing, it's like, oh, this guy's not what I thought he was. And then the dynamic changes and she's more into him. And That actually
Yep.
makes more sense because he even calls himself, he's like, I'm not an attractive guy, but he somehow lands like Julie Bowen, but in like a romantic way and
And she was
like a
back
really
for the
heartfelt way.
sequel too, which I really appreciate. Like they
Yeah,
didn't
and with the
cast someone
Modern
younger and
Family,
hotter.
yeah, with the Modern Family like thing behind her now, it's like she's gotten even more comedy in her resume now that she can like even use even more because she's not even that funny in this. But I think imagine now like she can
I mean,
really do
she's
some
very
funny
much
stuff now
great
that
with
she's got that
him. Yeah.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see what her role is in the sequel. I hope it's more than a glorified cameo. I hope it is. I hope there is something substantial to it. But I think in terms of this movie, obviously it's very golf centered and kind of the stodginess of golf. I don't know. It's tough for me to like have feelings about the golf aspect because I'm not a golf person. But I mean, I think the stodginess is kind of what makes golf golf. So I'm not sure if I totally agree with the premise and how Adam Sandler is not only his character is fighting against the golfers themselves, but kind of the attitude and the lack of like I guess excitement. But yeah,
It's funny
I
you
don't know
say
how to.
that because I find this weird comparison to Austin and Brett. If you kind of see it, like he's very much the Austin,
Well,
and this is
yes,
like the
yes,
Attitude Era starting, and Shooter McGavin is Bret Hart with a sharpshooter. You kind of get it, but like this came out before that even started, so you know what I mean. Like I can't help but think like this really was like a metaphor of what wrestling was going to become. You know what I mean? It really is
yeah.
because like they talk about the ratings going up. He's cursing more. It's more vulgar, but like he's getting punished, but like not punished too much because it's really like a draw, and that's what it's really about. And like Bret Hart being the traditionalist and Shooter McGavin being the traditionalist, like it really fit that tone. And for right match, I was trying to like maybe kind of fit that in, but Austin never beat Bret, man. So you can't really, you know what I mean? Like it only
At
works if,
least by
yeah,
pinfall, like
yeah.
he does have a just a DQ victory in there.
Oh, the April pay-per-view, yeah. But that's, that was kind of like
No,
an
he
afterthought. And
never got
I think
his
the
full
original
fight.
plan was him supposed to be Bret for the title at WrestleMania 14, which has always been my
And I think
conspiracy
that was a
theory. But
huge loss that we didn't get that. But let's talk about two performers who will not be able to repeat their outings in the sequel. Let's talk about Carl Weathers and Richard Keel. Unfortunately, both are no longer with us. And Carl Weathers, I mean, it's fairly recent at this point. Like, and obviously in Happy Gilmore, his character passes, but I have to believe that some sort of a cameo would have been done, and I'm sure some sort of dedication or homage will be done to his character in the sequel. So yeah, any feelings on their performances? I think Carl Weathers, in terms of comedy, is probably most associated with Arrested Development, but I think you see a lot of those bones in this performance and some of the same energy.
watching this back now, it just feels like if he didn't die in Rocky 4, right? And let's say he was just in a wheelchair or something like that. Imagine the performance he would have gave in Creed as like that kind of trainer role, and you kind of get a glimpse of that here. Even though it's a comedy, but I just felt like he is so good in that role of like being a trainer that it's almost a shame that he was never put in that role in the franchise for Rocky. But you kind of get that in 3. Like you kind of
I
get some
mean,
of that
you
in
just
3 as
don't think
well.
that there's going to be a Rocky 6, 7, possibly. It's pretty weird.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because like you could tell like he's so good in those kind of sports roles, right? And it's just he's a natural fit for it. And he's talking about golf and the stuff about anger management. I thought that was a really smart thing to do. Have find your happy place and all that stuff. And then the idea that he kind of restructures his old original putter, kind of like Obi-Wan handing down the lightsaber, and he restructures it to make it look like a hockey stick, but it's a putter. And I thought that was a really cool touch. And I think the character's really like a really well thought out character. And if you miscast it, it's gonna miss, totally miss. But I think they casted it right with Carl Weathers, and I don't think they knew how well of a casting it was because it really like adds to the movie. I think his performance, and we all know him as like Apollo Creed, so that just adds something to it. It's a sports movie, so there's that sports feel to it. So there's a lot of good things in terms of like casting him in this kind of role.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a really well cast comedy, I think. And when you bring in Carl Weathers and you bring in some of the other people, like you're just adding a lot of credibility. And I think Billy Madison is heavily reliant on the SNL connections, and certainly they are prevalent here as well with Kevin Nealon. And you do have Joe Flaherty, who's not SNL, but he's SCTV, so he's got the comedic chops. But you're really adding celebrities around the fringe with Bob Barker. You've got Chris McDonald, and you of course also have Carl Weathers as well. So for me, this is good. Adam Sandler, like this to me is like a solid 7 out of 10. I really appreciate just the comedic chops exhibited by everybody. They're pretty consistent laughs every couple minutes or so, and yeah, Robert Smigel as the corrupt IRS guy is also pretty funny too.
For sure. And then Will Sasso, my goodness, I didn't realize how old he was. And
He
man,
has
I
been
guess that
around a
dude's almost in
really
his
long
60s,
time.
right? Jesus. And this was 96, and I guess he barely did Mad TV at this point. But
I don't even know if he was
yeah,
on
he's
Mad
old,
TV at
folks.
this point.
You're right. I don't think so. Now that I think about it, my goodness, he's old. But
Yeah,
Ben Stiller, I think, has some unfinished business because we never got his comeuppance, right?
he
So I
is
think
in the
they're
sequel.
gonna
He
give
is
us
in the
that. I
trailers.
hope. That's what I'm hoping is like they either show him getting a like slapped by grandmas or like him getting hit by a car by a
I
grandma
I am
or
I
something.
guess I it's so interesting to me because Ben Stiller doesn't really like he's directing now. He really isn't making a lot of like on-screen appearances in movies. So I'm very curious to see. I mean, look, he could have just they could have just written him a seven-figure check, and that's why he's coming back certainly. But I'll be very interested to see like what the payoff is.
Yeah, and to see what Shooter McGavin's been doing all these years because it seems like he's still dressed to golf, so that's really interesting as well. So
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it. And like I've said before, I think when Adam Sandler has a movie with a heart in it, it works so well. But then there's movies that I just kind of like, oh my God, this is awful. Like I'm not a Click fan.
I hate
I'm not
that
a
movie
fan of
with a
Jack and Jill.
fiery passion. Jack and Jill is one
Jack
of
and
the worst
Jill's a
movies
no-go.
ever made.
Yeah, and if you look up Dennis Duggan, like he's been nominated for the Razzie for Worst Director 5 times, and they're all Adam Sandler movies. But somehow, like Happy Gilmore is like I don't know. It's just kind of
I
like
don't know
not
that I would
stand the test
necessarily
of
blame
time.
him.
It's
Like,
just
I'm not saying he's a
it's kind of
talented
been
guy, but
re-examined. I think Happy Gilmore's been re-examined these past 10
I
years or
mean,
so
I
just
think it
because of the
generally
memes and
has a good
stuff.
reputation. I feel like this is the movie. This Billy Madison and Waterboy are the ones that have a good reputation.
Yeah, and we'll also talk about next week. We'll talk about another good reputation that you haven't seen, but it has a great heart to it. I think that would be The Wedding Singer. But we'll talk about that next week. But first, we got to talk about the the Broad Street Bully match from Slamboree '94. Um, yeah, this is something else because Jesse Ventura has never been so happy on commentary ever, I don't think.
Jesse Ventura is having more fun than any of us, and I'm so glad that Bobby Heenan wasn't the one doing this match because I don't think it would have worked at all. Because I don't know, man. Like
Because he
WCW Bobby Heenan
commentated
is
the one
perfect.
before. He commentated the Spring Stampede match, and he was good in that. But I think Jesse Ventura just didn't know what to
I
expect
know
and
that
just had even more
there's
fun.
some people who actually prefer the Spring Stampede match. I think this is the better one. I think it has the better payoff. Like I think the referee becoming involved, like Kevin Sullivan being better than Max Payne. Like I think this match just works a ton better. But I mean, look, I think it's so funny to me that the Nasty Boys, like they basically appeared when wrestling was not hot anymore in 1990. Like, and I know they had like an AWA run in the dying days. It's like they appear in WCW in 1990. They're basically in the number two promotion for that cup of coffee. They're in WWF when they're in the doldrums. They go back to WCW and WCW is in the doldrums, and then the NWO takes off, and very shortly thereafter, they're basically gone and never heard from again on a mainstream consistent level again. So that is how I always see the Nasty Boys. This is one of their few highlights because I was not a huge fan of theirs, except when they did brawls like this, like the two street fights, the SummerSlam '91 match. I recall liking pretty well, but other than that, not a great run. I mean, the Steiners from Halloween Havoc is also very good because the Steiners are just kind of throwing them around. But yeah, not a huge fan of theirs otherwise.
It's always a mixed bag, I think. Like I think they're good and in that the Hard Foundation match at WrestleMania I think is good, but that's because they're getting carried. But I don't know. I just feel like if they were in ECW, like they would have changed the like what we view of them. You know what I'm saying? I think they would have had more of an edge to them if they went to ECW. I think a Dudley Boys Nasty Boy feud was like something we missed out on, like really missed out on. And I think like some of those brawls would have been crazy. And then imagine all the shit they would have done with New Jack. Like I think an ECW run was like missing from their resume, and they just never wanted to commit, or they were just I don't know if they were just didn't want to like take that kind of beating every night or something like that. Because it's I mean, the way they were beating in each other in this match is just ridiculous, and that's kind of what ECW was on the verge of becoming. It was like almost there around this time because this was like May '94, and I don't even think Shane Douglas threw the belt down yet, the NWA title yet. But like Eastern Championship Wrestling was on the verge of becoming what this match is essentially, and it's kind
Brian, do you realize that the Nasty Boys and the Dudley Boys, they did have a match together?
oh no, was it in
It was in 2010 TNA.
Oh God. Well, that's not a feud in ECW in the '90s. You know what I'm saying? But that kind of figures with that
If
kind of
you
booking in that
you need
era,
to
the Eric
see the
Bishop Hogan
state
era.
of the Nasty Boys in 2010, it is not good.
I'm trying to not picture that because I remember when they got booked for that, and like, no, I'm definitely not watching this program at this
I
point.
seriously
But
cannot believe
listen,
the Nasty Boys were brought back.
that's what happens when you're friends with Hogan and you live in Florida and you're just a drive away, and that's what happened.
Clearly,
Yeah, but in this case. Their run in WCW, the first one was fine because it was the signers, but they were on a short 6 month contract, I think, or something like that, and they just didn't want to renegotiate because they were getting lower pay, and they went to WWF. Smarter move. Um, in terms of their career, like definitely like a 5 or 6 year run, basically, and that's kind of it. And then Brian Knobbs goes solo in the hardcore for WCW, which is fine. Like he was teaming with Fit Finley, and that's kind of okay. But other than that, it's like Jerry Saggs was kind of like ostracized almost. With if you've ever heard that story with Scott Hall and the NWO and working some house shows that didn't go right and then beating on each other because they kind of lost the ball. You know what I'm saying? Like they kind of just lost the
uh-huh.
whole control of it all and just kind of went stiff on each other. But other than that, like I think their career is kind of known for these four matches you talk about, and that's fine because like if you put them on a compilation tape, it's like a fun compilation tape with those four matches. Um, Ending it with this one. And in this case, I think this match, thank God Dave Sullivan was in it because I think that would have been a huge letdown in terms of the quality. I know Cactus was hurt because the story was Cactus was supposed to get surgery after the match in April. And it was supposed
Yep.
to be Dave Sullivan and Kevin Sullivan in this. And then Dave Sullivan hurts his leg. They call Cactus back and he's like, I have surgery scheduled. And they're like, we'll pay you more, a little more, I guess, or something. And then he just came back.
I mean,
And he
the
dropped the
thing is
titles a
that
couple months later, but he should not have even been in the match.
by the time Fall Brawl happens, Cactus Jack is gone. By the end of the year, Kevin Sullivan is feuding with Hogan, and that eventually leads to the Dungeon of Doom. And it's one of the worst things that we've ever seen. Like 1995 is a graveyard of bad pro wrestling, and it is very easy to see why ECW took off the way that it did. And if the internet was more prominent, ECW probably would have been a legit number three in 1995 because the WWF and WCW in 95 were unwatchable, I would say. This match is a harbinger of what maybe could have been, like if WCW had taken, like if they were ECW light and they had taken advantage of that, they could have probably done something. I mean, it's, Hulk Hogan in 1994 is a cartoon, but you're telling me the Cactus Jack and Hulk Hogan couldn't have had a really good match if Hulk Hogan actually cared? I would think that is a real possibility. 1983 Hulk Hogan and Cactus Jack definitely could have done good stuff, but not whatever the Hogan that was coming into WCW at this point was going to be able to deliver. This match works because it's just a brawl. Like it's not. I don't even know if there are any wrestling holds in this match, but it's really fun. It takes place in Philadelphia. That certainly helps. Like it takes place in a Philadelphia facility that is like kind of dark and dingy, and I think that adds to it because they're not at like the main building. They're at like the secondary building that WCW ran for so many years, going back to the Crockett days. But yeah, I mean, this is one of the better WCW matches that I've ever seen, honestly. and it's because they just let him go all out. Like there's not really blood, which I would say would actually make this even better, but it is a really really good match.
Yeah, and I think that's the first time Jesse Ventura might have seen like a table spot. You know what I mean? Like, and the table spot was gnarly too because Jerry Sags just throws Cactus off the ramp
Yep.
like almost recklessly, and it just looks so like not the word, pun intended, nasty, but it just looks so bad on the body, and the dude was already hurt. I can't imagine how much this took out of Cactus Jack. But he did have a good look. I love the look of Cactus Jack when he comes out with that leather jacket. I think that's such a great look for him, as opposed to like whatever he was wearing in like '92 and that kind of like leopard print, whatever shit was going on. But I love the look of Cactus Jack here. Kevin Sullivan coming out with the babyface pop because he comes out in a Phillies jersey. I thought that was a good touch. He knows how to pop a crowd well, especially like we're so used to him as a heel, but him coming out for a babyface pop like that was pretty cool. And then overall, I think the revenge stuff was pretty cool at the end because like Dave Sullivan gets his revenge, and then even Max Payne gets his revenge. And I think, God, I don't know if like Jerry Sags legit was knocked out. Like they were even talking on commentary, like is someone gonna wake up Jerry Sags after the match happened? And I guess he was still unconscious in the ring after that guitar shot, and it's probably the most gnarly guitar shot ever. And I've seen some crazy New Jack ones, but this is way better than Jeff Jarrett and Honky Tonk Man, and it's because it's from behind too, so it looks even more vicious. And like Jerry Sags doesn't even like flat flare bump; he literally goes on his knees first, which makes it even scarier. You know what I'm saying? So, man, just craziness all around and good stuff, and good crowd pop with the what's his name? Who's the referee again? I forget, but he's like a famous Philadelphia Flyer, and crowd pop for him, and it was great.
Yep. All right. So that is our thoughts on both Happy Gilmore and the hockey street fight, I guess, in some ways, the Broad City street fight. So next week we will be discussing The Wedding Singer. I have never seen this movie before, if you can believe it.
It's a hell of a soundtrack, and it's one of those double CD soundtracks from the '90s. With, if you know what I'm
Oh
talking
yeah, I
about,
mean this is
folks,
when
like Austin
soundtracks
Powers.
were a thing.
Yeah, like Austin Powers had like a volume one and volume two because there were so many like licensed songs. Same thing with this one because it takes place in like '87 or '88 or whatever it is. And if you love the '80s and love '80s music, folks, this is like one of the greatest compilations of '80s music ever for the soundtrack. Two volumes.
Yep, very good stuff. So we will be discussing this movie next week. For Brian, I am Jerome. Thank you so much for listening. We will talk to you again next week.